So today we're talking about money.
I was actually hoping we could talk about my Jeep.
Why?
Is that a good investment?
I don't know. Is it still making noise?
It does go a little bit, but
It's a Jeep thing you don't understand.
Yeah, a fiat product, you know. Oh wait,
Fiat product.
yeah. I saw something the other day, like fiat currency. Is that a thing? And that's not the same thing.
Not the same thing.
What is fiat?
They're
currency?
both always losing value.
God. Dang, you got me there. That hurts.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk a little bit about money, why we have it, why we use it, how it's broken.
Broken.
And a little bit
Not
of
like
backstory
my
on that.
Jeep.
Also, and both broken, but broken in different ways. If your Jeeps are rapidly reproducing, you'd have the same problem.
But we'd have more ducks.
So in your opinion, what is money?
The stuff I go to work for so that I can buy the things I like.
And need? Food. I need food.
Yeah, I guess there's that.
Okay. Well, the simplest way to break down money is it needs to be a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. The current money we have does a few of those okay, and some of them not so okay.
How does it differ from monopoly money?
Well, they're both printed a lot.
Hasbro prints over $30 billion worth of monopoly money every year.
Do you think that's more or less than the U.S. prints every year?
I don't know. I might have to roll the dice on this one. We're going to go with less.
Well, it turns out the U.S. Bureau of Engraving and Printing produces around 974 million in actual currency.
So I was off
yearly.
by a couple million, couple few million. Dang.
If you worked 8 hours a day and you ran out of money every day, would you just print a little extra?
Well, then what does it do well and what doesn't it do well?
Well, the U.S. dollar is a pretty useful medium of exchange. Everyone pretty much knows what a dollar is worth, a dollar, even though it's not backed by anything anymore. The dollar is something that people are willing to accept as payment. It's a little easier to pay your electric bill in U.S. dollars than it is to pay in cattle. It's also very divisible. So you go to buy a house, it takes many, many bills, but if you're going to buy a gas, not using like $1 million bill. Money also needs to be a unit of account.
What do you mean by that?
Money provides a measure of value. If you're trying to trade cattle, like it depends on the breed, the size, the weight, male, female, all that kind of stuff.
Got it.
Prices and debts can all be expressed in the same language. So it's easier for people to transact in something that everyone knows what something's worth. Like a $1 bill is worth $1.
So like if I owe you 2 goats, but I owe him a cattle, how are those equal, or is one worth more than the other?
It becomes hard to determine.
Yeah.
So the US dollar does those two particular attributes pretty well. It's the last one that it's exceptionally bad at.
What was that one again?
Store of value.
Yes.
It is a bad store of value, greatly due to inflation, fractional reserve banking, and just kind of as a whole, there's a ever-increasing supply of money, which isn't very good if you're storing dollars, because the more dollars there are, the less yours are worth.
So if the U.S. dollar is a bad store of value, how did we get here in the first place?
Well, a little history lesson. If we go back a lot of years.
Back to cattle trading?
Yeah, back to
Tobacco
cattle trading. We used to use commodity money, which is essentially, I mean, people used to transact in salt and seashells and beads and all that kind of stuff. The only issue with that is if everyone's not on the same unit of account, it's hard to represent debts and prices all in the same language like we see above. But we used to use tangible goods. The problem with that is it's hard to transport. Cows die. People lose beads. Like it's not easy to transact in that. That's obviously over the last 1,000 years, we've kind of shied away from that. It's not always easily divisible. You can't go to buy a load of firewood and cut one leg off your cow and give it to somebody. It's not very divisible.
So in comes the dollar.
Yeah. And then after commodity money, we transitioned into representative money. And representative money, the U.S. dollar was representative money up until 1971 when Nixon took us off the gold standard. But prior to that, the U.S. dollar was always backed by gold.
It was always backed by gold. How?
So we always had gold reserves, and dollars used to be convertible into gold.
Convertible into gold.
So you used to be able to take U.S. dollars, trade them in for gold, and then you'd have gold. So in 71, Nixon took us off the gold standard, and he did that because there started to be kind of a, I don't know, call it like a run on the bank. There was concerns from other countries that we just kept printing money, and there was concern.
Wow, why would they have that concern?
Yeah, and then there started to be, mainly from France. There started to, or they're the ones that kind of initiated it. There was concerns that we just kept printing money, we didn't have the gold to back it. So then nations started to take all their dollars. They just kept accumulating dollars because they just keep printing more and people are transacting. And then all of a sudden they're left with a pile of dollars. And all these dollars just seem to be appearing. It's like, well, where's all the gold? Is the gold supply growing at the same rate as the dollar? So they wanted to trade all their dollars for gold. Well, then Nixon took us off the gold standard, and now the U.S. dollar is not backed by gold anymore. And now we have what is called fiat currency.
What is fiat currency?
Fiat currency is a currency that is declared by a centralized authority, typically like a government. They'll issue a currency and they just say, this bill represents $100.
So basically like, I owe you, take my word for it, here you go, I'll give you my money.
It's entirely backed by trust in the system.
Trust the system.
Yeah. There isn't like a tangible good or asset that is backing the dollar. So they can ultimately just print as much as they want.
Why would they need to print more?
We have a spending problem.
You and me do?
No, we can't balance a budget. And the issue is when we don't have enough. And what's increasingly more critical lately is we are creating new debt to pay for old debt. And it's kind of like if you have a credit card and you can't pay for it and you just open another credit card to pay off that credit card. And that's kind of why that's been all over the news for the last how many years is the debt crisis.
The government needs Dave Ramsey.
Yeah. So we keep printing money. And what's happened, this isn't the first time fiat currency has been a thing. Other countries, Argentina's a big one. Germany, there's been lots of other instances where this has happened. The issue is if you print a lot of money rather quickly, you start to incur a lot of inflation. And there's stories I believe in modern society, if I remember correctly, Argentina has defaulted like 9 times. They've had to like reset because they just keep printing money. They've had to reset their debt or their money supply like 9 times.
So what happens then?
They just reset the balance sheet. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, but I've heard stories where people from Argentina, if they were to go out to eat, not like we go out to eat like something fancy, like if they're just going to a local restaurant to get food, when they sat down, they would actually pay their bill before they ordered food because there's such concern that it was going to cost more by the time they got done eating that they paid up front.
Wow.
That was the kind of inflation they were experiencing. These are pretty extreme cases.
But we're headed there.
There's nothing to say that this couldn't all come crashing down slowly, or it could all happen rather quickly. But we've noticed even since if you look back to COVID, we printed a pile of money, and it's really starting to show. We've had record high inflations, prices of lots of things, homes, as an example, have like doubled in the last 5 years. In the last 5 years, the U.S. dollar's lost 30% of its purchasing power just because the money supply keeps growing. There are grave repercussions for this. And
yeah, I think you touched on this already in a previous episode. Could you imagine if you were retiring in those last 5 years, you would have lost 30% just...
Yeah, if you were sitting on it in U.S. dollars, you'd have lost 30% of your purchasing power, which is which is crazy.
Wow.
So one of the ways our money supply keeps growing is we are issuing treasury bonds. When I say we, it's the U.S. government. And essentially what they're doing is they're taking out a loan that they're going to pay back with interest. And that's kind of where the government gets a lot of their money from. And there's been a lot of issues with the bond market, and interest rates of bonds have had to go up because the interest rates previously have been relatively low. The issue is if you're looking at somewhat, I'll call it a short-term bond, like within a few years that it'll come due, if they're going to pay you, say, 5% interest over 5 years, that's a negative rate of return, because if they print a bunch of money over that 5 years and you see 10% inflation, you have less money than what you started with. Not by a number, but in purchasing power. So if you had a $100,000 bond and then you get $105,000 in 5 years, but you saw 10% inflation, like you actually in real terms have less value. You have more dollars, but less value. So there's been a lot of issues and concerns around the bond market, and a lot of other countries that hold a lot of our bonds have been kind of quietly getting rid of them. We actually got downgraded by a lot of credit rating agencies. The U.S. did. We always had a good credit rating because the government's never going to not pay their promises or their bonds or their loans. The issue is if you're getting less value after the fact, It's really not a great investment anymore. So it's like with 100% certainty, you're going to get paid back. But it's kind of like if I wanted to buy something and I borrow $100,000 from you, it's like I'll pay you back in 30 years, but I'm only going to give you like $102,000. It's like that's a terrible deal. Like you never ever would want to do that. So that's why we got a credit down rating. That was over in the news a couple weeks ago. Another way we create money is actually more in the public sector. So a phenomenon we have is called fractional reserve lending. So like when you go to buy a house and the bank loans you money to buy a house, there isn't like a one-to-one issuance. Like they don't have, if this house costs $300,000, they don't have $300,000 sitting in the bank to give you to then pay for a house. So they're basically loaning out dollars that don't exist with the intentions that you're going to pay them back later. So there doesn't need to be, their reserves aren't one-to-one. So they only need X amount of reserves, and that's to set regulations by our government. And we keep creating money in that aspect. So like if you go get a car loan or a home loan, they keep giving out loans, but there isn't necessarily dollars today that back those loans.
Interesting.
So essentially you end up creating dollars that don't exist. Oftentimes people say we're printing money. We're not typically printing money. I mean, we do print money, but most of US dollars are all like electronic or digital. Like if you have, it's everywhere. Like mortgages, like there's not just piles of dollars sitting somewhere.
Right.
Like most of it's just on credits and debits on lines on ledgers, more or less. So that's where our money supply keeps growing from largely. There is one more recent style of money or currency that has come on the scene. Most of you heard that's digital or crypto. Not all, I hate how crypto is all lumped together. They're not all currencies. And some can argue either way that Bitcoin is currency or isn't currency, but that's the best example of a digital currency is Bitcoin, I would say.
Crypto's just so hard for me because that's really Superman's dog's name.
Is it?
So like that, when you say crypto, it's like, all right, yeah, a white puppy flying through the air with a cape on.
I'm just tired of hearing the word crypto because it's either like,
it's
not against anyone, but it's either like Reddit users or like someone on the news talking about how everything's a scam. It's just like that's a derogatory connotation to it.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
My brain kind of turns off.
Just think of the dog.
Yeah. And people lump them all in together, like everything you could buy or sell on Coinbase. Like they're not just like all like, it's not like the US dollar and peso. It's like some of these are smart contracts, quote unquote, or they're services based. Like if they're used to like send things, it's not to like, not just money, but it's hard to explain. Some are like service based. They're not all like money, quote unquote. So I hate lumping these all in together because they're all different. They don't all solve the same issue. Like Ethereum is quote unquote smart contracts. Like I agree to this, you agree to that. It's a contract. It's not like I'm sending you pesos or something. So like they're all different. I hate how they're lumped in together, but for the sake of this argument, we'll just solely focusing on Bitcoin. It can be used as a currency. Some will say that it's not really used as a currency, but if I wanted to, I could send you Satoshis to pay for something if I want to.
Yeah.
It can be. So it has the ability to be used as a currency.
So just by saying that it's divisible, like like the dollar.
Yep.
So that's nice. That's one of your things, right? To make it a good money.
Yep. So it is a medium of exchange. It also is a unit of account.
Oh yeah.
It's not as like widely understood. I was going to share a brief story once. I was talking to my dad one time, and we were talking about like land, and like if you bought vacant land, like say a farm field, and if you bought it like 50 or 60 years ago, I believe we were talking about the land he bought that I was raised on, and it was in today's dollars is extremely inexpensive, and then now it's gone up a tremendous amount in value. And whenever people talk about that, they're like, "Wow, that was a great investment." Like my brain just kind of shuts down at that point. I get frustrated. If you were to buy 100 acres 50 years ago at market value, and then you held on to it for 50 years and you sold that land, you'd have more dollars than you used to have. But if you want to take those same dollars and go across the street and buy another 100 acres, it still takes all of that money. So it's not like you can go rebuy it for what you originally paid for it and you have all this money left over. Like you still have the same thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like what we're facing
now. It just
now
took more dollars.
With housing.
Yeah.
The same thing.
So like everyone says like, oh, land's a great investment. Like in dollar terms it went up. It's like, well, no, the dollar just lost a ton of value.
Yeah.
Now it just takes way more dollars to buy the same 100 acres. So like you can't just go buy 100 acres somewhere else for, like across the street for like what you paid for the other land 50 years ago. Like you can't get any more stuff with the more dollars. So it's like you don't really have more of anything of value.
So how is Bitcoin different?
Well, the difference with Bitcoin and fiat currency is Bitcoin's not centralized. There's not any one entity that's just going to keep inflating the supply. So if you have one Bitcoin today, in 100 years from now, it's still one Bitcoin. So a lot of people think like if you hold on to Bitcoin, like it's going to make you rich. It's kind of like having that 100 acres. Like if you have that 100 acres and then 50 years from now, you still have 100 acres, the US dollar is a terrible store of value because the supply just keeps inflating. So when people speculate on Bitcoin, they're like, oh, it's going to go up all this and they think they're going to get rich. The whole point is to store value. When you have a finite supply like that, 21 million coins, it doesn't matter if 100 or 1,000 years go by. If you price things in Bitcoin, you still have one Bitcoin. It's one of 21 million. It's not like this year it's one of a trillion and 5 years from now it's one of 10 trillion. Like you always have the same amount. That's why it's good for storing value. That's another reason gold's done well over the years. The only difference with gold is it's harder to transport, and they keep pulling more, like roughly 2% out of the ground every year. So like the supply is growing, but it's hard to send someone in Europe right now $20,000 worth of gold.
Right.
Like, and there's costs associated with that, like security and transport, and it's just hard to move. If you have a gold bar, it's hard to make it divisible. Like with Bitcoin, it's divisible. It's easy and cheap to transport and pay other people with. And the largest thing is the inelastic supply. That's probably the main feature, I would say, or selling point.
All right. So new capital comes in to Bitcoin, not through legitimate business activities. And then early investors can cash out. And then when the Bitcoin dries up or goes crashing down, all the late investors are SOL. This is better summed up as a Ponzi scheme. How is Bitcoin different than a Ponzi scheme?
So this has been discussed greatly by a lot of people. A lot of people call it a Ponzi scheme. Some people call it Ponzi adjacent. A lot of people have concerns with Bitcoin, like it doesn't have like it doesn't it's not like a business that generates profit or income or has some kind of yield. Like that's not the point of Bitcoin. The point is to like store value. You can store value a lot of ways. Like if I have a bar of gold, like it doesn't generate more gold.
Yeah,
Like
it's
one
not-
brick of gold is just one brick of gold. So
Sure.
like when you buy, like other people buy classical artwork, like ultimately you're betting on its scarcity, its finite supply, and you're also betting that they're just going to keep making new dollars ultimately. And that's a comparable way that people will hold, or a reason that people hold Bitcoin is basically a bet that they're just going to keep printing money. It's a way to price things in a finite supply. And when people realize that they don't want to hold on to a bunch of US dollars, they want to hold on to something that someone can't just create more of. Like if everyone thought the US dollar was bad, I'm like, I'm just going to create a new currency and I'm going to tell you like, this is worth X and like, this is the total supply. And then I turned around to somebody else and I said the same thing and the same thing and the same thing. And then all of a sudden, like everyone, it's kind of like, I saw a funny, picture on Facebook the other day, and it's like, I don't know if it was even real or whatever. It was like, there's like an asteroid and it's like, it's anticipates to have like, 20 tons of gold on it or something. And it's like, if they mined all that and gave it to everyone, like everyone would be a millionaire.
No.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, everyone would be a millionaire, but like now it takes $1 million to buy a car. Like they don't understand how economics work. Like if you just printed a bunch of money and gave it to everyone, like everything just gets more expensive. It's not like people that are making bread. It's like, well, we're just going to charge the same amount. It's like, no, there's more dollars competing for the same stuff. So everything just gets more expensive.
Sure.
So that's the biggest thing. It's just it's a store of value.
Yeah,
It's a savings mechanism.
Yeah, I think one of the other things you touched on earlier too is it's decentralized. I think that's a big factor in.
So like when people keep thinking like everyone just prices everything in US dollars. So when they buy Bitcoin and they're like, I'm buying it in hopes that later it's worth more US dollars. And it's not just because like I hope someone pays more for it than I do. It's like I know in the future there's going to be more dollars chasing the same amount of Bitcoin. It's like the price will go up.
That's math.
Like there's a lot of people out there making predictions like, oh my God, is Bitcoin going to hit 100,000? And then it did.
Right.
And then they're like, it's going to go to 1 million. It's like, can it really go to 1 million? Yeah. I mean, as long as the US dollar doesn't like entirely collapse and we stop printing it, like, do you remember when we bought the Louisiana Purchase for like 50 cents? Like, is that land?
Yeah. Right.
Now that land's $5,000 an acre. Well, it's going to go to 10? Like, yes. They're just going to keep printing dollars. Like, if you can stretch the time horizon out long enough, like land is going to be like $100,000 an acre.
Yeah.
Like, the only assumption you're making is they're just going to keep printing money. And that's obviously been the case. Like, they won't stop. We can't balance the budget. Like, the debt just grows to infinity. That's ultimately what it is you're just trying to safe haven your value, your time and energy. When you go to work and you trade 1 hour of time for X amount of dollars, it's like, well, what do you do with that to store that value for later? It's like if you just put it in the bank, tomorrow you have less. The next day you have less and less. And then when you're trying to retire someday and the value of the dollar just keeps going down, it's a way to store value. That's like its ultimate value proposition. So do I think it's a Ponzi scheme? Like, absolutely not. Like, if it goes down, I'm fine with it.
Now I'll just buy more.
Like, I still have, X amount of Bitcoin. Like, That's the point. I've also heard, like, there's been arguments that large institutions, I won't name any, but, like, just say, like, a large institution buys, like, 99% of the Bitcoin or 100% of the Bitcoin, it just kind of becomes worthless to everyone else. And then it's just going to crash. It's like, well, not really. Like, the market prices what it's worth. So, like, if I take all the Bitcoin and I hoard it all, well, it's not really much value to someone else. So, like, if I ever need to use it or sell it, like, then it doesn't matter what someone else is worth and what someone else thinks it's worth unless I'm willing to sell it.
Right.
So, like, if one entity holds all of it, it's like, well, no one cares about it anymore. The value will go down. And then if you have a bunch of Bitcoin that's not really worth anything, you're more prone to letting it go. It's like the market will decide what it's worth. So what I don't like is I go to work and I trade my time and my energy for dollars, and then I let someone else tell me what the dollar's worth. Like
Yeah.
a group of people that are in charge of printing it or creating the supply or creating interest rates. Like ultimately they decide what your dollar's worth.
They don't know how long you were in those tanks.
Right. That's the part that bothers me the most is like if you go work hard and then someone else is like, well, your dollar's worth less now. But it's like I already gave up that work and my time. I have no way to keep that value from eroding.
Yeah.
And that's the main value proposition of Bitcoin. Same reason a lot of people buy gold.
Yeah, we covered a lot here. I think the biggest takeaway is our money's broken. We've
Very
been
broken.
talking about Bitcoin a lot in the first 4 episodes. I think maybe you should dive into a little bit more about Bitcoin just to get a better understanding out there where our head's at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in the future, if you guys like, I would like to dive into a 3-part series of what is Bitcoin, what problem does it solve, and some of the questions around that. I haven't laid it out perfectly yet, but thinking something along those lines.
I like it. I think we should do it. If you think otherwise, let us know what we should cover instead in the comments.
I'm very much approve of opposing arguments as well. Like if you think it's a Ponzi scheme, like let us know you think it's a Ponzi scheme. Or if you think like it's going to zero, let us know.
Yeah, we're here to talk about it. We just need you to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See ya.